are
So let's.
recording.
Okay.
It's exciting. All right. So I'm just going to start, I guess. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us for what we are calling officially Hope and Hysteria. I think we got a little bit of both of those going on right now. So thank you so much. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions, get some advice from some three professional ladies. And we're going to share a little bit about what makes us professional ladies. Who do we think we are that we can tell you anything? Clarissa, why don't you start?
Oh, thanks, Jenny. You can definitely start. So I have a master's degree in social work, and I also am a licensed therapist. I've been working in the field with elementary to teenagers to helping parents for about 4 years now, 3.5, 4 years. Going well. All right, Alyssa, how about you?
Just like Clarissa, I'm also a master's in social work and been doing some similar jobs to Clarissa. We've both been working in enhanced services, which usually means we're working with pretty high needs kiddos. And also I've worked in a hospital doing working with people in crisis. And and then that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. Well, I think that sounds pretty good. Like, we got some smarts. Personally, I have a master's in social work degree as well. You may have noticed that we've all been kind of working for about 4 years because we all happen to have met in grad school getting our social work degrees. I did not go the clinical route. I don't have an LCSW or a licensed clinical social work licensure, but I work primarily at sort of systems levels, what we call macro social work. So I work with predominantly middle school age kids and families and middle school staff and admin, trying to pretty much reduce barriers to education so that people can ultimately finish their education, go on to be whoever they want to be, and reach all of their goals. That's what I've been doing, and I've been doing that for about 4 years. So hopefully that gives you some idea of why we may have a little bit of insight to share with you. We sent out the call for questions. We put them on Facebook, our own personal networks. We put it on Reddit, which was not the best idea, I would say. With Reddit before I did that. You live and you learn. But we got some really great questions from you guys. So we're just going to dive right in and start answering some questions. You guys ready?
Ready.
All right. So our first question comes from Concerned Mama. And Concerned Mama asks, oh no, it's not loading.
Technical issues, okay. Always. Happens to everybody.
Always.
It's always about going with the flow.
Go, that's right. This is cash.
Flow.
Okay, so Concerned Mama asks, how likely is it that a child will end up similarly to their parent, drug abuse, anger, etc., if they aren't around that parent, never have been, and actually have a very loving and nurturing home life with their other parent? Is any of that biological? Does a child's environment and upbringing override that? So that is a great question.
Yeah.
So who feels like they can tackle that first?
I can start. So I think again that is a great question, and while our history and our family history definitely gives us puts us at risk for certain things, that in the same breath, the things we're exposed to also provide us with protective factors and can help us in a lot of ways. So I don't think anything is written in stone. I think, of course, there are these things, that might, again, be to consider risks, but then we can always do things to mitigate some of those. And then, it's a tricky balance, I think.
Yeah.
Really tricky balance.
What are your thoughts, Clarissa?
Yeah.
My thoughts, that's a really good question, Alyssa. I like how you added that our family history is a risk and it is important to know that, but it definitely doesn't have to be our destiny. I mean, I also think too, that's why people go into therapy. Like, we want to change like where we are, but also with that question, I want to add what first comes to my mind is validate. Is with your child, it is always important to validate their feelings, help them express emotions, because a lot of like kids that grow up, I think they're taught that, just kind of, especially boys, this is where I get into, I hear a lot of parents say, like, when they fall, like, just dust it off, whatever, but let your child experience emotions. They're allowed to feel hurt, angry, sad. Validate that, allow them to express it, and the more you know, the more you talk about it, the more the child's going to feel more comfortable and learn to grow into like their own selves and allowed to feel those things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind, like, I think our instinct is to shield our children from that as much as possible, right? Like, the less they know about it, the less they talk about it, we don't have to acknowledge it, and that won't seep into them. But we know that that's not how emotions work. That's not how we as humans work. You have to acknowledge what you're experiencing. I think it's important too, when we're talking about this type of nurture versus nature, or like what does our childhood have to do with who we become, that we kind of talk about ACEs a little bit. I don't know if that's something that is out there much. I know in the mental health field it is. We talk about it a lot, but what ACEs are, that stands for adverse childhood experiences. And there's tons of research out there. There's tons of information. So I really suggest going on. You can just Google adverse childhood experiences. There's a quiz that you can take. It's a 10-question quiz, and it basically asks, have you or did you experience different things, like did you see drug use in the home? Did you experience abuse? Were your parents separated? That kind of thing. And all of those are factors into contributing to choices that you may make as an adult. It's not, again, like the same thing. It's not a sentence to who you're going to be. But what research has shown is if you don't put in those protective factors that you were talking about, Alyssa, that all of those things are going to contribute to you making decisions in the future that aren't necessarily going to lead you in the direction that you want to go. So I really recommend looking into that. And like Alyssa and Clarissa said, like, making sure you're being intentional about supporting that child regardless of what they're going through. I do want to say really quickly too, like, I think when we know the history of someone's biological parent, we can tend to start to see those patterns, and it starts in our head being like, oh, they're just like so-and-so, or they, this is the beginning of what's going to happen. And it's really important that each individual is a new person, is going to make different choices, and has different chances. So do not put that on another person.
Yeah, let the child be let them be their own person. They don't need the pressure of us pushing like another identity onto them. Let them become who they're going to be.
Yeah.
I agree too. And I think it sounds like this person is doing a really great job of making sure that their kiddo is loved, and making sure they're providing like a healthy environment for them, and just I just want to give them like a shout out for that too. That's awesome. That's not easy to do. It's not easy to leave, your child's partner sometimes. I mean, your child's parent, your partner. You know what I mean? So just again, shout out to that too.
And when you've experienced that in a partner, it's you got to check in with yourself too, and like take care of yourself. So just all of those things. I think it sounds like just validate, do your research, be present, all the really easy things, right? Like all the
easy.
Good job for just caring, like even asking that question. So,
yes, for sure. Awesome. All right, so that was our first question. Thank you, Concerned Mama, for sending that in.
Yes, thank you.
Our next question, we had a lot of questions that were kind of in the similar vein, but we found one that I think kind of exemplifies that the best. And that one is, as we are now in multiple months now of quarantine, how do you find ways to stay connected with friends and family? As an introvert, space is required for my well-being. I'm enjoying my time at home, and some days I find it hard to respond or reach out to the people important to me. How can I maintain my relationships and find energy to keep my social life as we continue into the further months of quarantine. And that comes from Gretchen. All right, thank you, Gretchen, for your question. So what are our thoughts?
Well, I can definitely start.
Oh, go ahead, Alyssa.
No, but I'd love for you to start this time.
I can start.
You go ahead.
So I would consider myself a mix of extrovert and introvert, depending on really the seasons, I think. But
introvert action.
Yeah. But that is a really good question. I think too, as we go along, it is feeling more difficult, and a lot of us have different responses to things. Like my mind automatically goes to the flight, fight, freeze, or fawn response. A little bit about that and how we're reacting to this quarantine experience, whether we're getting angry, which is, you're high, or getting depressed, or kind of numb. I mean, I think there's all experience with it. So with connection, I'm finding it very helpful for me to just reach out, the In the House app, isn't that what it's called that we're using?
House party.
I was thinking of Wild Now. I've been watching mine all lot, y'all. But House party app, Zoom, doing those to connect with people, even guiding my dad in how to use Zoom in the app. That's been helpful. Also, just phone call, text. I think all of us are in the same boat, and sometimes it is hard to reach out, but I'm finding that when I'm reaching out to these people, it's been helpful because they're like, oh my gosh, I've wanted to reach out. I need this connection. So using your social media, since we do have that, and also just getting outside, trying to get some fresh air. And I don't know where this person is, but like I live in a complex, so getting outside, I'm just kind of seeing people, even if it's a nice little wave, that's helpful. But yeah, using social media a lot, getting outside is helping with connection, for sure.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts, Alyssa?
I agree with a lot of what Clarissa said. I think I've been loving being able to video chat with people. It's been a lot of fun. And I consider myself an introvert as well. And I don't know, this has kind of been a unique experience because in the past, when I've struggled myself with like being an introvert or having some social anxiety, and wanting to get out with people or thinking I wanted to get out with people, it was really hard in the past. And I would like see people having fun and like, why can't I be doing that? Why am I not doing that? Like, just like, you be doing this, putting a lot of pressure on myself. But now that no one's doing anything, I'm like, it's totally fine being home. And so I'm realizing that that's like a comparison thing, right? I'm comparing myself to others, but now that there's no one to compare myself to, feeling pretty okay about being home. And so I wonder if that might be part of what's going on. And I also, just a thought. And then I'm thinking about how it's so hard, but even just letting people around you know, like, hey, I really need to connect right now. I'm struggling, and I know that's not easy, and people are busy, but just doing that is important. And also, because I think I know this, Gretchen, and I or maybe I don't want to assume. But I also think from the outside looking in, people might not realize that that's what you're experiencing. I think people feel that way about, struggles I've had in the past. Like they just don't realize, they don't understand. So, and also there are certain activities we can do at a social distance, like walk, certain little things. I know I've really enjoyed getting outside, even not necessarily connecting with people, but just feeling connected. Like being outside definitely makes me feel very, very connected to the world. So that's kind of what's been on my mind, and some things that some thoughts I've been having around that. So
yeah. Well, thank you guys for sharing. I think like for me, my first instinct is like, I by nature have typically been an introvert, and then through my job over the past few years, that has I've become more of an extrovert because it's such an integral part of my job. But what I'm finding is I'm taking this opportunity to say no to more things. some of them, it started out good. I think I'm getting to the point where I'm saying no to more things than I should probably. But it's just, you're having a little bit of grace with yourself too. Like you don't have to, like Alyssa was saying, there's no roadmap for what we're supposed to be doing, how we're supposed to be feeling about this, how we're supposed to be handling it. I don't think anyone feels like they're knocking it out of the park right now. But I think that what you guys have been saying, like being intentional about what you need, checking in with yourself. There are going to be some days when you don't feel like reaching out, and that's okay. And maybe putting it out to some of your friends, like who know you well. Like I think all of us have experienced this with ourselves and our other friends, where we need that connection, and people will reach out, but we're not in a place where we can do it right then. But having friends that understand that they need to keep checking in with you, because it can be frustrating to have someone keep saying no. But if you have friends that really care about you and understand you, then they'll keep checking in. You'll still have those opportunities. Even if you don't feel like initiating them. But yeah, it's tough. So hang in there. Like you're doing awesome.
As High School Musical says, we're all in this together. No one knows what's going on. Oh, sorry guys.
Okay.
I'm too old for that. I'm too old for High School Musical.
You're not too old.
You just need to take some time and watch it. So
I will. I have tons of time now. I should be watching High School Musical instead of Parks and Rec for the 8th time.
Maybe. Who knows?
Tomato, whatever.
Yeah. And I really like what you said, Janie, about how like those people that care will continue to reach out, and because that is tough too. I think I've seen where people have been like having a tough time, and then they're reaching out to someone who's also having a tough time, and it's like they're both saying no, but they're both struggling, but they're just like they don't realize it, and it can be really hard not to like get into your head about that. So, but yeah, you're right, and I think I'm such an introvert, but I've also noticed that I've had more extrovert tendencies lately, and I think that's an interesting thing too. So I don't know. It's a lot. But
we're all learning a lot about ourselves through this whole process.
Totally.
I have something.
Yes,
also in this experience, just I would encourage showing a lot of compassion to yourself, because I'm speaking personally here too, it's easy to become critical, but no one has been through this. This is new for everyone, and whatever you are going through, just have some compassion for yourself. Show some self-love, because this is a time too, which is also hard. It's a time because we are by ourselves that we have to kind of look into ourselves and see those hard things, and just giving your compassion along the way. Just wanted to say that.
Awesome. Very important. Yes, always important to remember. We do not, as a society, support a lot of like taking care of ourselves. Even though we say that a lot, we're not actually, we don't reward that behavior. We don't like, and I can do a whole thing about that, but I won't do it right now. Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, I feel that.
So for our third question, I thought we would share a little bit, and this came from Michael. And Michael asked, what factors motivated you to pursue a mental health degree? So I don't know. I thought maybe we share. And maybe since you guys have gone first, I'll go first this time. And okay, cool. Sounds good. We've really worked out the process of this, obviously.
I mean, clearly.
Yeah. So for those who don't know me, I don't know. I'm assuming people are going to watch this that don't know me. I'm Jenny. I'm 35. I was in retail management for years and really hated it a lot. I hated the worst thing that ever happened. I won't say the company that I worked for, but we had all these people that worked for us full time. They were, adults with families. They worked full time. They had benefits. And then the company decided to bring everybody down to part-time so that they could cut their benefits. And so I was in management, so I had to sit all these folks down and say, thank you for your years of service. To reward you, you're going to get 20 hours a week, and we're taking away your family's benefits. Thanks, and I realized how really awful that was, and how desperately, I wanted to help those folks and talk with them through that process. Can you guys hear that?
Just a little bit, but it's fine.
Sorry. Yeah, the yard is being weed-eated. But so anyway, so that was kind of a long story just to say that I recognized, and through some things that happened with my own family, I really recognized that there was just a really inequitable system in our society. And people had so little control over it, even though we like to pretend that, oh, work hard and go to school and pick yourself up by your bootstraps and everything's going to be awesome. And it's like, I just kept seeing time and time again that was not the case. And so I knew I wanted to go back to school. And when I did my research, I looked into psychology and I looked into other things, but ultimately social work seemed like the closest to connecting people with resources, which is what I really wanted to do, to create those conduits so people could reach people. There wasn't no matter who you were, what your circumstances were, what color you were, what your sexuality was, what your gender was, any of those things, no matter who you knew, who your dad was, like you could still be connected with the things that could help you to reach your goals, which is, I think, all we can do for folks, right? Is just let everybody have the same opportunities and have equal agency in their life. So that was sort of my motivating factor. And I went back to school late in life, and I'm just feeling so thankful now that I have the degree and I'm doing the work that I actually makes me feel good about myself, instead of like making some guy who already has millions of more dollars. People 20 hours a week. So anyway, and that's not to say there are tons of people who work retail and there are tons of amazing managers out there. And I'm sure there are great companies out there, but that was not my experience. That was it. So that's me. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. As far as pursuing mental health, I'd say my entire life I have been surrounded by mental illness in some capacity. I won't get too into that, but then when I started in college, it was interesting because I did not declare a degree until the very last minute of sophomore year that you have. And I took a intro to social work class and I instantly felt at home. I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I've always considered myself a person with a caring and empathetic heart and wanting to help people. And I just remember sitting in that class and I was like, wow, this is the field that lets me help people in many areas. And I would have lots of options. Like I wouldn't be trapped in one job. And so from there, I went and I worked in the social work field for a little bit. I worked in DSS. And then I decided to, like in DSS, I just did the abuse neglect phone calls, but I was surrounded by amazing workers and colleagues, and I got to see the hard work they were doing. And from there, I learned too, like, okay, there are underlying issues that are causing this. Like people like to come at it like that person's just lazy or that person's just tired, and that's not it. There's underlying issues that are driving these behaviors. And so being surrounded by amazing colleagues and learning those factors as well, I was like, I want to help people with the underlying issues that are causing this. So then I went and got my master's degree. But then from there, it was interesting too, because I didn't exactly want to work in mental health. I was like, I'm just going to go work in the hospital. St. Jude was my goal. And then I learned you have to get your therapy license to do that. And so then I went my therapy license, and now that I'm in it, I absolutely love it. I would say there's not a day that isn't challenging, and I learn more each day, but it's nice to be able to help people with the underlying issues to help them become a better person or who they want to be, which is nice. Oh, and lastly, which has nothing to do with what I just said, I'm 27. I did not say my age earlier. So I'm young. I promise y'all I'm not a teenager, even though I might look like it.
Oh my goodness.
When I roll into school, my teenagers are like, oh, I thought you were one of us. No. But yeah, that's kind of why I was interested. I've just been surrounded by it my whole life and wanted to help people with the underlying issues. Let's get to the root of the problem.
Awesome.
All right, Alyssa.
Okay, yeah, that is awesome. My name's Alyssa. I actually will be 29 tomorrow. I don't know when we'll post this, but my birthday's the 17th, so y'all know for future reference.
Put down your calendars now.
But yeah, it's just like, I always say I kind of fell into social work because I remember being younger and wanting to do so many different things. My undergrad was in journalism and public relations. And before I graduated, I knew I didn't really want to do that. I got a lot of great skills from journalism, public relations, a lot of like I can write, I can communicate. So, but before I decided to take a few social work classes before, graduating, and kind of like Clarissa, like intro to social work. I hate to say it didn't do it for me, but race and ethnic relations like really just cracked my mind like wide open, and was really amazing. Like in that year, like I went to my first rally, and in my little town that I went to college in and that I lived in for most of my life, and it was amazing, and I was hooked. And I told myself I would double major and take a little longer to graduate with social work. But by the time senior year came, I was ready to get up out of there. And I, along with taking some social work classes, I had also taken some education classes and ended up deciding to become a teacher. And I loved working with my kiddos, but being a teacher was not for me. And I kind of had a really awful experience as a teacher. And then following that, I was a nanny. I worked at a forklift company. I worked at a grocery store. And I applied for graduate school, didn't get in, applied again, got in, and was very, very lucky. And during that time, also, when I was bouncing all around, I was also volunteering quite a bit with some kiddos. And that would be mentoring them, tutoring them, observing them while they're doing community service, because we also they contracted with the Department of Juvenile Justice and helped make sure the kids got their community service hours in. And that those women at that nonprofit were really just so wonderful and so helpful in helping me decide what I wanted to do. And they wrote me letters of recommendation. And along with that, even my own therapist, she was an LCSW, and she also, I didn't even know, so many people don't know social workers can be therapists. And so she was the first exposure I had to that. And she was so great and helpful during all this too. And I feel like this is a mouthful, and I feel like I've actually been thinking about this a lot recently because the birthday is coming up. I don't know about y'all, but birthdays are always a time of reflection. And also the anniversary of us graduating was so recently, and that's also a time of reflection. And it's so wild for me to think about how all of that has happened, like within the past just over 10 years. Like so many things have happened. And I don't know, I agree. I've also had a lot of experiences with mental health throughout my life, as well as like socioeconomic struggles. And I feel so grateful. I just feel really grateful that I've had the experiences I've had, the good and the bad and everything. And I'm so grateful that social work allowed me to make so many wonderful friends. And that's why I am where I am. And I like Clarissa. I didn't know we had all these. I didn't realize this before, I guess. But I did not, I don't know, it's kind of like Clarissa. I did not think I wanted to work with kids. Like after having that awful experience with the school, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I started graduate school completely open. I don't know what I want to do. We'll see how it happens. And I'm so glad that I did get to go back and start working with kids and families, because I just love that. And that was a lot, but that's I got into it.
Yeah, a lot to share. A lot.
Right? Yeah, there's so many.
Well, awesome. So hopefully that gives folks an idea of who we are and why we do what we do. And this whole podcast idea just came out of us talking about we wanted to feel like we were helping in some way, and we felt like we had some life experience to share and some advice. I don't know, I think we all talked about how we tend to be those people that friends come to you and ask for advice. So we thought, all right. And just, I will also say that obviously we are not experts on your life. And so if you have a question, we would absolutely love to give you our insight into it as much as we can, and share how we are processing what you're saying. We aren't telling you what to do by any means, but just giving you some thoughts on it. So please send your questions in. You can email them at hopeandhysteria@gmail.com. And we'll put some links down below the video so that you can submit some questions that way and all of that. So was there anything else you guys wanted to say before we closed up?
I'm going to say, like Jenny said, you guys are like the experts in your own life. And I don't know, I think I really enjoyed doing this. I hope we get to do more of these. So.
Yeah, definitely. We have some questions. We love to get some more questions. We have a ton of experience with dating and divorce and marriage, obviously, at least the divorce, and all
weird
kinds of
family stuff.
Weird family stuff, all of that. So please don't hesitate. And I would love for us to have, if you have a question that's very specific, I'd love for us to find other folks doing this kind of work to come on and share their experience that would be different than ours. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, I'm Jenny.
I'm Clarissa.
I'm Alyssa.
And we will see you next time on Hope and Hysteria.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.